Hey, yo, welcome back to the Boston Sports Brothers podcast. You got the URI crew this evening. You got Big E, and we have a very special guest. We're excited for Adam Kaufman of ESPN Radio, CLNS Media, and NESN joining us tonight. He's got the green screen in the background. We're going to be talking about the green team here off the rip and sort of the fallout of the season. Wasn't on the show last week, fellas. I did tune in and was able to get all your takes after a very disappointing end to the season there with the Celtics. But we've had about a week to digest everything now, and the second round of the playoffs is underway, and that's where we're going to start the show tonight. Great to see all your beautiful faces. And Adam, want to start with you. And actually, I have a question for you, because last night I saw that you tweeted that Victor Wembanyama, you don't think that was a flagrant 2. I think that's the most blatant flagrant 2 I've ever seen. So give me your take, and then let's talk about the Celtics.
I kind of agree with Adam.
Yeah, look, there's no denying that it was a flagrant. I mean, obviously, turned around and elbowed Naz Reid in the face. I mean, we've seen things like that in the NBA before, and it's led to multiple game suspensions. I get it. But I also look at the time and place, the circumstance. You know, this is not a Thursday night in November or something like that. We're talking about a crucial playoff game, and you want to obviously hand out technical fouls and penalize them in some form. Sure, I get it. I just thought it was a little egregious, a little over the top, a little unnecessary to boot him from the game. I didn't think that had to happen. Now, I'll admit, I was also a little salty because I was chasing a 14-1 parlay in the last leg with Spurs money line.
Oh.
And I was not happy because I had passed on a pregame hedging opportunity. Then, of course, the Spurs fall down by a bunch and then late take a lead. And I'm looking at it in the fourth quarter where I've got a nice hedge opportunity again all of a sudden. And I went in a little bit. I covered, I invested just enough to basically get my stake back. I didn't maximize profits because I was thinking, holy shit, they might do this. They might actually hang on. I mean, they were up by almost 10 points there midway to late into the fourth quarter. And then, of course, gave it up. And I don't know. I should have just trusted myself, which was no Wemby. If the Spurs actually happen to get in front in this game and I get the opportunity, max hedge, go for it, invest. And I didn't. I got cocky or I got overconfident or whatever the word. But yeah, I was still a little salty about that. That may have impacted the tweet a little bit.
I'm glad that we've unraveled the truth here in the first few minutes to get on the same page. Was, you definitely don't want the ref show when it comes to the playoffs, although I think, in my opinion, what he did in sort of winding up with the elbow, the funny part was he's sitting on the bench and they made the call and he didn't even realize that a flagrant 2 was an ejection from the game. So,
he doesn't get tossed much.
He's from another galaxy. Of course he doesn't know
he doesn't. Well, not only does he not get tossed much, but I mean, when you go and look at the play, Naz Reid wasn't, completely clean himself throughout that whole entire play too. So it's one of those things where, Adam, where you alluded to, it's, set and setting, I like to say, with other things. But in this case, it was with the flagrant. Second quarter, 8 minutes in, not a good look when it's one of the NBA's top premier players out there. Flagrant 100%, but tossing it from the game,
Was that a plane?
Should have been a toss.
Undoubtedly, Big E lives in East Boston, and a Boeing 747 absolutely just flew over.
No, that's
his head.
bigger. That's than a 747.
I thought that was Wemby's.
Yeah, right?
I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not sure if that was
me.
mine. I was muted, so I don't think that was me.
No, it wasn't me.
Maybe
There's
it's
no planes
Kraz over
around
there
me.
in Warwick over at the.
I'm in Cranston. No
airport
planes
over there.
around me.
Well, we all sorts of aviation going on apparently tonight. All right, let's. That was a great topic off the rip, fellas. But let's get into the Celtics. Let's sort of break down where things have gone. There's been a lot of scuttlebutt in terms of Jaylen Brown, and obviously he had his stream 24 hours after the season. And my take on that was, obviously I didn't think it was a great look for him to do that right after the season. I do understand what he said in terms of it being his favorite season and the growth of the team and some of the other players. But then the media sort of takes the ball and runs with it and pits JT and JB against each other once again. So let's start there. Just the Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum dynamic as we move forward and as we look ahead to next season. And Adam, let's start with you. We can go around the horn. But do you see when we get to September, October of next year that both these guys are on the roster and they continue to build around these guys and try and go for Banner 19 with both of them still here or their moves coming?
Yeah, I guess my opinion kind of changes all the time on this. But what I will say to start is that I think it's very much in play, which I realize, wow, hot take, like Jaylen Brown could be traded. But I start that way because in previous off seasons, I wouldn't have said that. I would have said, you don't separate the Jays under any circumstances. These guys are both, at present untouchable and they can win. Look what they just did with the championship and all of that. I do think, though, now we're at a point where you need to at least entertain it. I'm still not advocating for a Jaylen Brown trade. I think ultimately I would like to see him back, and I would like to see these two guys and whatever it looks like around them chasing, as you said, banner 19. Where it gets difficult for me, and people get caught up, obviously in playoff losses or in some playoff performances, or even just when it looks stagnant, the offense in the regular season, in how these guys I don't think they are individually at their hearts, Tatum and Brown, selfish players, but you see occasionally when the offense breaks down, less of the ball movement, more of the ISO, more of the dribbling into traffic, forcing the ball into traffic, into bad situations, putting up bad shots, and kind of that your turn, my turn stuff, as opposed to working together. And they're two incredibly smart, high IQ basketball players that, for whatever reason, don't seem to understand. And this is an ongoing issue throughout their careers, which, again, we're at basically, a decade for Brown and a couple years less than that for Tatum. It's not like these guys have only been around for a few years. They've been in the league for a long time, and for whatever reason, aren't quite yet understanding that some of what they do individually, as talented as they are, two of the great players in the league, Tatum, top 5 when he's right, Brown, top 15, 20, there's still a fighting the game element to what they're doing, to where it just is counterproductive. It doesn't look right. And when you're committing 70% of your salary cap to 2 players and then being forced to build out depth around that, you have to look long and hard and say, are these the right 2 financially? Tatum's untouchable. He's the only untouchable. And Brown, who clearly is not happy living in his shadow and will never be happy living in his shadow. And that, by the way, not even a knock on Jaylen Brown. I get it. I understand the sentiment of going out, performing as he did this year. People think this could be a 25-30 win team. They win 56 games. He has a career year. He'll get MVP votes. He'll be all NBA, be it first or second team. And people are still looking at him and saying, well, yeah, but it's that guy's team. He's back. As soon as Jason Tatum comes back, he's being announced last again in the starting lineup. You bump up a slot. That's just how it is. That's how it's always going to be in Boston, so long as you guys are coexisting. And he seems a little increasingly butthurt about that. And, at a point, he's going to say, I want to, maybe anyway, he's going to say, I want to get out from this guy's shadow. Thing is, it doesn't always work, right? I mean, Kyrie Irving wanted out of LeBron's shadow. He wanted his own team. How'd that go? We've seen instances of this throughout NBA history where a lot of the time it does not work well. Or maybe win at a high level in the regular season, but you don't do anything in the playoffs. Doesn't mean you're a loser. Doesn't mean you're not a winning player. It just means you have a ceiling. These two together have the ultimate ceiling. We've seen it. I just don't know, depending on what you build around them, how much of that is left versus trying to get a little creative around Tatum. And the best way to get creative around Tatum, unfortunately, involves trading Jaylen Brown. So look, I don't envy Brad Stevens' position and Mike Zarin and all these guys in the front office. They have some very difficult, challenging conversations to have. But I don't think it's a secret. I don't think it's weird that, Shams Charania, ESPN, puts out an article today all about Giannis's future. It says the Celtics were one of a half dozen teams that tried to get Giannis at the trade deadline. I don't think it was just Derek White and Sam Hauser they were trading away to get that. So, no details on what that offer was, but it's in the air. It continues to be in the air. And Jaylen either has to stomach that and move forward, or he's going to be upset and want out.
I always like to think about who's pushing that narrative, though, as well. Right now, that narrative is being pushed by Milwaukee, right? They have nothing to lose at this point to not have that narrative out there. So I'm not saying that I don't give credence to what Shams is putting out there, but you have to consider the source, right? I don't think that's coming from the Celtics. I think that's coming from Milwaukee because they're trying to drive up as much interest as they can for Giannis, because they have given themselves, for I don't know why, a 6-week window of making a move, which to me I think is a little bit short-sighted, but that's my opinion. Maybe not what everyone else feels.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Eric. Or sorry, Gabe, go.
Adam, you mentioned Jason Tatum as being untouchable. Did you think Luka Doncic was untouchable before he got traded?
I think that I was shocked, obviously, that he got dealt. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I saw that coming or something. I think the entire NBA world was shocked. I mean, I was up all night reading Twitter, watching. I mean, I was up into the middle of the night when that happened, when that news came down. I think we were all floored by it. But
absolutely.
I think there was also, there were kind of some whispers, there were some tea leaves that a lot of people, including me, ignored about, does this owner really want to pay Luka long term? There were all these questions about his effort, his conditioning, do they disapprove of like the beers in the locker room and this stuff? Like I think there was a culture component, something involving Luka that the Mavericks really didn't like, pardon me, and had kind of just decided, not to say they just were going to deal him to deal him. They obviously coveted Anthony Davis, and as we know, it didn't work. But I think they looked at Luka and said, this isn't the guy. This isn't the guy that we want to give the, supermax contract to. I don't think any of that stuff has followed Jaylen Brown. I mean, they already previously made him the highest paid player in the NBA. One thing that's going to be incredibly telling, and I don't know how it works out, none of us do, is whether the Celtics give him that 2-year extension at $70 million a year. If they do, obviously, that's going to be an indicator of how they feel about him. If they're gun shy about that, that's something to pay attention to as well. So, I think it's interesting. But to the core of your original question, look, Luka's a top 5 player. He's a superstar player. I would have thought he was untouchable, yes. But I think there were kind of little things to pay attention to that a lot of us didn't, that suggested the Mavericks didn't feel that way.
Raz, feel free to jump in
that's
with
so
your
true.
takes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just think like Tatum also, I feel like just like JB, you kind of have to explore options, even if it even if you're not gonna go that direction. Like, it would be interesting to see like what you could pull for Jason Tatum, in my opinion.
So for me, I kind of wrote a little bit of note here because I typically will forget, and I don't like comparing players because comparing players doesn't get you anywhere. What I do want to compare here is a relationship or a camaraderie, and when I see like a lot of pictures of like the Jays when they were younger, and then there was the Jays when they were together, and he was like, I got Paul. Jalen said to JT, I got Paul. It reminded me a lot of the relationship between Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. And I'm not comparing players at all because they're completely different players. Both sets, the Splash Brothers have been doing their things for a while. Both very extremely talented players. And if Jaylen Brown wants to do it and wants to stay in Boston and wants to do the right thing, well, for homers like myself, he would, he's a smart guy. He knows how athletic he is. He knows how athletic Jason Tatum is. He, in my eyes, as a complete homer, this is where you say to yourself, this is the chance to win. I've made my money. I've done my investments. I've done that. Let's try and win this thing, and let's try and get someone else in here, and let's unleash all our potential, and then whoever else we bring in here kind of potential. Because you look at what Klay and Steph did during their run. They won, however many times with Steve Kerr. They brought in KD. They won again. Then I don't want to say they were irrelevant for a while, but they weren't in the finals as much until they met us again, and then they beat us, and you saw that camaraderie kind of come out again. And that's really, that, and besides the them dropping Al Horford onto Steph Curry and Steph Curry hitting every single wide open three, that's kind of what I think really lost us that series is the Celtics allowed the camaraderie between those two guys to kind of come back together. And yeah, I know Klay wasn't 100% to back to where he was, but you still had Steph Curry there, and you still had a winning coach. And I do think that this team, if they can find a way to do it, can keep the Jays, build around them, and hopefully keep this thing going long term, because I do like this team, and I do like the duo that they put out.
We had Gary Washburn of the Boston Globe on our Celtics Beat podcast recently, and kind of had this conversation similarly about how these guys are obviously forever intertwined. Even if Jaylen Brown is gone tomorrow, these guys will be linked forever, in the same way that, Bird, McHale, Parrish, Pearson, Antoine, quite frankly, Russell Cousy, you name it. Like there are just, groups of players that are always going to be, in that same spot. And Tatum and Brown forever will obviously be intertwined. The thing that I always come back to, I don't know how you guys feel about it. You need to be in a very exclusive club in Celtics history to, when it comes to championships, when it comes to, winning multiple, right? Like these guys have won the one, and I don't want to discount winning one. That's incredibly hard to do. But to win two, you get to go through another door. You get to go into another place that makes you especially unique in Celtics history. And I think we've heard Tatum more so than Brown allude to that in the past. There's obviously these guys knew you had to win in Boston. That's a bottom line for, they're going up in the rafters regardless. But to be viewed a certain way, to be, deemed winners and have it, translate to yet another level of getting that second championship. The pursuit of that, especially in this era of parity under Adam Silver, it's not an easy thing. We know that, but they're still in a window. They've still got another, existing, never mind if it were extended, but existing 2, 3, 4 year window that they can really play with here and potentially win another one. But front office has to look at it again financially in part, and that's why they cleared the books, to where they stand right now to say, okay, we have Tatum's window. Again, not knocking Brown, but we have Tatum's window. What's the best way to put us over the hump? Is it a Giannis? Is it dealing Brown and going out, and it's not a good comp, but I always refer to it as like pulling the Nomar, right? You deal away, the better player, the best player in the deal, and you bring in pieces in the aggregate that ultimately make you better around the margins or what have you. Are the Celtics, if the Cavs flame out against the Pistons and Evan Mobley is available, are the Celtics going to potentially pursue him, which would require giving away a Jaylen Brown if he's even, available? We're seeing Jamal Murray rumors that are out there with the Nuggets. People have brought up Nick Claxton, again, a guy that, we've been talking about going back to the deadline last year. I just think they're Hall of Famers. They're going to have their numbers retired by the Celtics. They're, in the all-time Tatum, more so in the all-time great conversation, or at least on that trajectory. But you also have to accept, and this is just kind of the business end of it talking, these guys probably both. Like, I don't think either one is going to be a Celtic for life. Just and that's not a knock on Tatum or Brown. That's just the era of sport that we live in right now. It's few and far between that you get a Dirk Nowitzki, a career Maverick, Kobe Bryant, a career Laker, Tim Duncan, a career Spur. Like even Pierce was, gone at the end and hop teams, right? Like, it might happen with Jokic. Who knows? Hopefully not. We'd all love for Wemby to be a career Spur and Tatum to be a career Celtic. And it just generally does not happen. And I don't think anyone believes Jaylen Brown, especially with how the guy still talks about getting booed on draft night. Nobody believes he's going to be in Boston forever. There's a lot of hurt feelings there behind the scenes and some of the things that have happened, be it with fans or in the city with some of his community initiatives or what have you. I don't know. I know I'm rambling on, but there are so many uncertainties as it surrounds these guys to where you have to at least acknowledge that they're phenomenal regular season team, and same thing gets attached to Joe Mazulla now, but this is now 3 premature playoff exits in 4 years with a title in between. And in the case of all 3 of those exits, Jason Tatum wasn't available to you at the end. Also a problem. There's so many huge questions they are facing right now.
Yeah, no, there's
Lots
a lot.
of
There's
variables.
there's a lot of questions there, and I think that's a good segue into, the offseason and what is the wish list here. What do you think that this team needs, regardless of what happens with Tatum and Brown? Let's say that they stay together. What can you do to elevate this team?
Well, I think that my favorite thing about Brad Stevens, and I've talked about this for a long time, is he is a genuine straight shooter. Like Danny Ainge used to, I'm paraphrasing, but he used to kind of acknowledge that the, part of the job was lying. And just, it wasn't like you weren't being deceitful, but there were mistruths and you were misleading. And that's just like the nature of being a general manager or president of basketball ops or whatever. Brad Stevens really doesn't do that. Brad has always kind of given it to you straight, doesn't necessarily always give you exactly what you need to hear, but there are enough breadcrumbs that you can read between the lines. He did it, he told you exactly what the Celtics needed from a skill set perspective going into that title year. And they went out and addressed exactly those needs in bringing in Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis. He just had his end of the year press conference, and he kind of did the same thing again, talking about the importance of getting better around the rim. And, obviously, like, what a glaring weakness that was this season, especially getting exposed by Embiid in the playoffs. They know they need a true center rim protector. It doesn't mean the guy can't, have the ability to shoot threes. I know they like to stretch the floor and they like to play a certain brand of basketball, but it's got to be someone that is legitimate on the inside. And they also need a point guard, like a pure, true point guard. No knock on what they've got, but they need more depth at that position. So those are a couple of, rather glaring needs, I think. In terms of who's available, that'll kind of work itself out. We'll see who's available in the trade market as well as free agency. But the thing is, because they got under not only that first apron, but the luxury tax thresholds and have this ability to reset and now add money and go over the second apron. Hell, if ownership, if Chisholm and that group, if they want to spend like crazy, they can do so. They've got the, almost $30 million TPE. I know those become a running joke around here because it feels like they never use them, but you can bring in a solid player at the 28.5, whatever it is, million. It's not a superstar. It's not even necessarily a star the way it once was. Remember that we're talking about 70 mil a year for Jaylen Brown coming up. So you half that, not even, you're talking about that, like Derek White makes $30 million a year. And we love Derek White, but you're talking about more like that caliber of player versus a, star player. So you have that. You can go out and acquire a guy with that if you want to, bring in that money and just add it to the books. You got a $15 million mid-level exception. People have talked about, and I think emotionally we'd love to see this. I don't know if from a basketball perspective we'd love to see this, but Time Lord, bring back Rob Williams. If there were any confidence this guy could stay on the floor, I think we would all love it. It's the injury concerns. That's the thing that becomes a problem. But again, that's a guy that, addresses a problem area for you. Queta had a great year. Queta was one of the better centers in the Eastern Conference, but he was nowhere to be found in the playoffs. And obviously between his fouls and, you can only get so much out of Luka Garza. Maybe the one trade that Brad has ever effed up in my mind was the Vucevic one, which I hated the day he made it. And so I'm not at all surprised it didn't work out. But, they need to address that positions. But I think if we were, to go back and listen to Brad again from the other day, there were some breadcrumbs that he left in terms of what he desires. But I think the biggest thing from Brad was that he acknowledged that, as simple as shouting out 3-11 against the top teams in the NBA, Brad knows this team wildly overachieved. And it's not like I've talked to him about it, but just in listening to him, he didn't sound all that surprised that they lost in round one. Like it wasn't the level of disappointment that probably the fans all share with one another.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting to like pull that thread, and I think the idea of Time Lord coming back is an interesting one. I think if he's healthy, it's a great story, but the question is, can he stay healthy? I think Al Horford coming back would be interesting because he is Jason Tatum's favorite teammate of all time. The question is,
how many times are we going to do that though?
I know. And the question is, how much does he have left in the tank at this point, right?
He's coming off the bench.
He's 39, and he can't play consistently throughout the regular season, and he's old. So I'm not sure if the free agent route is really the best way to go, just seeing what's out there. There are some guys that are out there. There's Nurkic, there's DeAndre Ayton. Those guys don't really move the needle for me. There is one player via trade, though, and this person popped up. And it's not Giannis. I think everyone's going to go to Giannis as the big guy that they want to go for. But someone who I think is a little bit more under the radar and someone who I think could potentially be had is Sabonis. Sabonis out in Sacramento. And I'm not the only one who said this. I was listening to Paul Pierce and KG earlier this weekend.
Yeah,
and Paul Pierce also came up with that. If you look at the money, it does work with the TPE, with Derek White, with Sam Hauser. You can include some picks in there. You look at where Sacramento is currently, they're in the dregs. They did not end up getting anything positive out of the lottery. They're going to be bad again. They're over the salary cap. I think they're approaching the first apron pretty soon. So it could potentially be something that might be out there. But I'm curious, is there any other name out there on the trade market besides Giannis and Sabonis that you would be looking at?
I'll start by saying that I need zero convincing on Domantas Sabonis. I have had a crush on Sabonis since he was in college. I was on draft night. I wanted him to wind up with Boston. And I have just been, following that dude around like a puppy ever since, watching him in his career. And so, yeah, I would love to see him in Boston. Now, he's got his own injury concerns of late as well. But man, you want to talk about a dude that would offensively fit the scheme, my God. In terms of potential trade targets, it's hard to know. We saw a lot of movement, as you acknowledged, back in mid-season. Now, obviously, there's the Giannis domino. Claxton, who I brought up before, is a really interesting piece if he moved off of the Nets. I really wanted Zubats at the deadline, and as we know, he went to Indiana, and as it turned out, they got screwed over in the draft lottery and lost that pick. But that was another guy that I thought would just be so great in Boston for a range of reasons. Beyond that, I don't, because I agree with you. Like, I don't want any part of Ayton. I'd be nervous about Rob. I am not particularly interested in Nurkic. I mean, he can collect rebounds. There's no offense to his game, not reliably anyway. Mobley, to go full circle on that conversation, I don't think the Cavs are beating the Pistons, and there are just only the Cavs for me, I've referred to them for years as like the old Atlanta Hawks, right? Like they can win 55, 60 games in the regular season and then do nothing in the playoffs, and that's just who and what they are. And the Cavs are, first they wanted us to believe it was Bickerstaff's fault, then it was Atkinson's fault, and then it was, no, we got to try and reshape this thing. Didn't work with Garland. Let's go get Harden. It's not working with Harden. At a certain point, they're going to have to look in the mirror and say, like, is it a Donovan Mitchell issue? Is he the problem? Can he not get us over the hump? What's the missing piece? And, who knows? Maybe they, again, just stay at sort of the two, if you will, in this positionless era in the NBA. Maybe they do decide, we have Jared Allen. Let's get a little smaller. Let's deal off Mobley. We could bring in Jaylen Brown. That's an interesting move for both sides, quite frankly. So that's just one is it going to happen? Probably not. But, if we're just sort of playing GM as the five of us sit here, that's one that I would at least be thinking about.
Aren't there rumors that Giannis is going to Cleveland?
Giannis is,
going everywhere right now.
Yeah, he's on every team.
Are what's out there, right? Which is he wants to be with a contender. He wants to be in the Eastern Conference still. Like that narrows it down. I mean, he's been attached to New York in the past. He's been attached to Boston. He's been attached to Miami. There's the Cleveland piece. Could LeBron wind up in Cleveland after the season when the Lakers lose? There are just so many things with the Cavaliers that I think are uncertain again, as they kind of feel like they are annually, because they just can't seem to get over the hump and do anything meaningful in terms of a real playoff run. Like this is going to be, in all likelihood, another second round exit for that team. So there are tons of questions. But as far as Giannis goes, the thing to remember is Giannis controls way more than he should. Let's just say in an imaginary world that the Washington Wizards or the Sacramento Kings or the whoever had the best offer for Giannis. He's not going. So that deal doesn't happen. The superstar players in the league today have the ability to dictate where they want to go in the same way that Kyrie said, I'm going to Brooklyn. And Kevin Durant said, I'm going to Brooklyn. And James Harden said, I'm going to Brooklyn, or I'm going to, wherever, as he just was consistently getting moved. Paul George, I'm going to the Clippers. Like, guys ultimately are deciding this, and then it's up to the teams to just, well, our hands are tied. Just give us your best offer, I guess. It's stupid. It sucks. It's annoying, but it's kind of where we are. So I don't know what Giannis wants. I don't know if Cleveland appeals to him in any way, but it wouldn't really interest me, quite frankly. Not if I were him.
It'd be interesting. Giannis here with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, personally, I don't think would work, because it's three guys who need the balls in their, it needs the ball in their hand to really make things happen. And I think it goes also back to the Celtics style of play. We talked about the threes and how important that's been to them. And so what sort of player and what sort of adjustments are you potentially going to make if you do go ahead and send out a Jaylen Brown, or you go ahead and use Derek White and Sam Hauser from a money standpoint? And Adam, to sort of wrap up our Celtics talk, and then we'll talk some playoffs and get to the lightning round, is how much of a microscope is Joe Mazulla under as they enter next season? Obviously, he's still under contract. It looks like they're going to go into next year, obviously, with him at the helm. But what Brad, the breadcrumbs that you talked about, there were some breadcrumbs in terms of the shot selection and the way that they played, and what sort of things are going on with Joe Mazulla as we head into next season, and do you foresee any potential changes to the coaching staff and them adding around him to bolster that as they head into next year?
Well, that last point, I think adding around Joe should be a priority and is likely. It's just, can you find a veteran coach that maybe isn't interested in being a head coach anymore? Joe doesn't need to look over his shoulder, kind of like when they brought in Jeff Van Gundy and he was on the bench, or an advisor, I guess. Or, obviously Charles Lee was a younger one, had head coaching aspirations, but there are guys like Sam Cassell who's still there. Like if you could find a guy that is, has some head coaching, has some leadership experience, has some pushback, a guy who isn't, I don't want to say coaches on the staff are yes men to Joe Mazulla, but it's good to bring in someone with an outside perspective. And, I'm trying to think of, who might be available. Did Taylor Jenkins just get a job?
Taylor Jenkins.
He just got the Bucks job.
Milwaukee.
Is
Damon Stoudemire still out there? Like, didn't he go to college?
Stoudemire had gone to where? Georgia Tech, and then he got canned. So I think he's out
Frank
there.
Vogel.
Yeah. Frank Vogel would be a great example if he's out there. Yeah, I mean, that type of guy who might come and be willing to just, again, be on the bench, be on the staff, be a lead assistant, whatever. There would just be another voice for Joe. Because I don't believe that, and I'm a bit of a Joe Mazulla apologist, to be fair, but I think that I don't believe Brad and Joe are at odds, or Joe's seat is warm, or, he was in any danger of losing his job this offseason. Yeah, Brad, as you said, acknowledged that he wasn't happy with a lot of the looks that they got in that playoff series, while Joe was post-game saying how great the looks were. But I think at a point, that's just kind of something, your coach says after a game and defends the players and that kind of thing. Joe's not Ime. Joe's not just going to shit all over his players after a game. So I think that Brad and Joe are pretty like-minded, pretty on the same page, pretty in line with the analytics and the math of the 3-point shot and everything. And, he was asked, how did you feel about, I don't remember exactly the question, but how did you feel about all the 3-point shooting? And Brad basically said, well, I didn't like the bad ones. Not every shot obviously is a good shot, but I don't think Brad is out there having a problem with 6-7 3-pointers in a row that don't go in if they're all wide open looks. That's kind of the bottom line. If they're getting good shots, like Peyton Pritchard, that huge shot in the corner, like, who really had a problem with the Peyton Pritchard shot? It's a great shot.
That's what I brought up last episode, and someone else on the cast that isn't here had an issue with that play. I personally didn't, because like you said, it's a wide open 3 and the guy hits them all the time. Like,
right.
9 out of 10 times he's going to hit it, and that was unfortunately
he hits them
the
contested,
10th time out of
let
10.
alone not alone.
Yeah. So
only
like
needed
said,
1 point. Only needed 1 point.
Yeah. No, I look, and I was earlier, in those previous couple of minutes when nobody was going to the basket, especially a guy like Jalen, who was very capable of putting his head down and getting to the rim. Yeah, it was frustrating. It was aggravating, but some of those looks I didn't have a problem with, and that was one that was just fine.
One last name for a head coach or a former head coach that can come in and sit on the staff. Why not Tom Thibodeau? Run it back and have him come back as being an assistant. I'm sure Tom wants to be a head coach, but if I
wonder if he gets the job in Portland now that Tiago Splitter's getting screwed.
Oh, he's getting absolutely screwed. That is a ridiculous situation that's going on in Portland.
Let's take that and run with that a little bit around, and let's go around the NBA. Just all the playoffs on the table here. The Knicks go ahead and sweep Philadelphia, which then, in turn makes the Celtics loss to Philly that much more painful. I don't know if the Knicks would have been an opponent that the Celtics would have gotten past. The Knicks seem to be just firing on all cylinders at this point when it comes to the playoffs. I think we're on a collision course of OKC and the Knicks meeting in the finals at this point. But it's OKC on the other side of the bracket, just absolutely dominating.
The Knicks can't win. They can't
win.
win.
Right now is the...
Okay, OKC can take 2. That's fine.
Why is everyone putting OKC in the finals? I'm not looking past San Antonio.
Yeah, I'm still chasing San Antonio. I'm not just handing it to OKC yet.
I think the thing is San Antonio going to get past Minnesota right now. I mean, they got a series here. They got a series on their hand with Minnesota, and everybody has written off Minnesota, and look what they just did against, another 7-foot however many time MVP guy in the middle that they were able to
listen,
shut down and go ahead and make happen.
It's not San Antonio's fault that they actually drew a competitor in Minnesota, and OKC has drawn Los Angeles with who's on, everyone's on injured over there right now. So like, let's give San Antonio a little bit of grace here. They have a really good team. They almost won that game last night, even with Wembanyama getting out of there. So let's just hold our horses on who comes out of the West at this point.
And it's not even just that. Just OKC, and look, this is a great team, and playing without its second best player, and they're awesome. I love the Thunder. Don't get me wrong, but who was it in round one? Phoenix. I mean, it was that unmemorable a series. A team that shouldn't have even been a playoff team. If you had asked anyone going into the year, is Phoenix going to be a playoff team? That was supposed to be one of the worst teams in the NBA. So of course the Thunder have their way with the Suns, and then as you said, the Lakers, who are all banged up, down Luka, didn't have Reeves. The Lakers, as far as I'm concerned, shouldn't have gotten by Houston. It's a miracle that Ime still has a job. So the Rockets should have beaten the Lakers. The Lakers obviously take care of business in that series, but there was no match against OKC with Luka. No chance in hell. So the Thunder are going to move to 8-0, but they haven't faced anyone, as you said. Spurs, and I know they weren't whole, but the Spurs had their number in the regular season, took 4 out of 5. I don't think the outcome of that series, if it gets there, is a foregone conclusion at all. I think it'll be fascinating, and I think it's the championship. It's the NBA Finals in the West Finals, because whoever wins that series is going to beat the East.
I agree with that.
Likely story there in terms of what will happen. I give the Knicks a lot of credit, though. I mean, they just dismantled Philadelphia, and they've had a couple games throughout the playoffs where they've just completely blown doors, and our buddy Erkey is flying high.
For now.
Our New York, resident New Yorker.
I also don't want to put the New York Knicks in the finals either. Like, I don't think that
they got to go through Detroit.
Detroit is
they got to finish out that series first, but
Detroit has to take care of business first. But I don't see Detroit laying over and just being like, oh, we're going to face the New York Knicks. They're just going to, dominate us. I think it's going to be a nice and competitive series. So I'm not annoying the Knicks.
There's no good outcome here.
Yeah,
there's no good outcome here.
It's
like, as long as it's not the Knicks.
Nobody wants to see New Yorkers happy. Nobody wants to see that. And then definitely. The Cavs are just not fun. The Pistons are a really fun team, but I question the depth behind, Cunningham, as good as Harris has been, and, Duran's hit and miss offensively. But
Harris is on a hot
streak.
Look,
if I'm being objective, the Knicks have a more dangerous team than the Pistons. They do. The way they're going right now. I mean, they are eviscerating teams. It's, again, similar to OKC, not good teams. Like the Hawks were kind of spunky and fun, but then the Knicks torpedoed them in the last 2 games by like 80 points. And then the Sixers were no challenge at all. So, I think the Knicks are getting they're getting ready for their first real challenge too.
Undoubtedly, it's been an interesting NBA playoff, and we'll see how things shake out here over the next couple of weeks as we head towards the conference finals and the finals. Adam, let's get to the lightning round. These are questions where first thing that comes to mind in terms of your answer, and we'll go around the horn here. I'm going to kick it over to Gabe to get us going with the lightning round. Go ahead, Gabe.
Absolutely. All right, Adam. Favorite content to produce? Is it team coverage or your gambling content?
Gambling content. It's not even close. I love it. Look, maybe it's become a bit of an addiction. Maybe I should call the number. I don't know, but I just find it to be such a fun and fascinating space. And team coverage is fun in its own way, but you know what you get to do in betting content that like you don't have to drown on and on and on and on about offensive line holes. Like that does not interest me for 3 seconds.
I love it. How about any big plays this week that you want to give our listeners a head start on?
Well, when are we dropping? Are we?
This will be out tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow.
Okay, so I won't give you anything in the NBA tonight. This weekend, no, I guess I haven't really looked at the weekend, or the weekday board quite yet. Other than I expect it. How about this? I expect a nice bounce back out of the Spurs. I don't even know what the line is. I don't remember, but I think San Antonio will cover against Minnesota in this next game, and that I would take overs on the PRA for Wemby. I think he goes off.
I think they're favored by 10.5. Looking at the line for tomorrow night.
There you go.
All right, let's ride.
I would
Group
take the
Brothers
Peter
bet
Rays.
here.
I would love
We'll
that.
get it going.
Take the spaceship.
We're big food fans, so we always love to ask our guests where your favorite spot is in Boston to eat.
In Boston, truthfully, I don't eat in the city a lot.
It
I
can
mean,
be
there's
anywhere.
some spots in there's some spots in the North End, obviously, that are good, but couple of steak places that I really like. There's one in they're actually like sister stations or restaurants in Groton, a place called Gibbet Hill, and then in Burlington, the other one is called the Bancroft. Nobody is paying me to say this. I just really enjoy the steaks at these two places, and
What
they're
about-
they're a little more like again, like they're popular. They're not like unknown, but they're not your Ruth's Chris, Capitol Grill, wherever like chain place. You know what I mean?
What's your
Any
steak
hidden
order?
gems?
I'm a generally a why is it? So I'm
Ribeye,
brain
strip,
dead.
filet.
Yeah, no, I'm more sorry. Yeah, well, like why couldn't the term filet come to my head? Goes to show how long it's been since I've had a good steak. But no, I'm a filet guy. As long as I'm not feeling cheap in a particular moment, I'm a filet guy. Treat myself, and yeah, no, I enjoy a filet.
I took my dad out to the Bancroft. It was like back in March for his birthday, and he's still talking about the steak. I mean, it's like 2 months later, he's still ranting and raving about it. So the Bancroft, in Adam, I trust.
Might have to be a podcast dinner.
My parents like to go out for nice dinners for special occasions, and I'll always get them. They really love like Capitol Grill, Ruth's Chris, those. And so I'll always just get them gift cards there and like go and have fun. But at the same time, I'll include like a little note like you're missing out. There are other places you could try them. Yeah,
awesome. I know obviously we've chatted a lot about the Celtics here, but I want to go back to the past a little bit through your time following the team. Who is your favorite all-time Celtic and why? I know it's Sophie's choice, right?
Yeah, I mean,
can you go A, B, and C?
Right. I don't know that I ever really like that I've got a favorite all-time. Like I have favorite basketball players ever. I don't know that I necessarily have a favorite Celtic period. But what I will tell you, and this will be kind of a crazier take, I suppose. So I was with some buddies, a season ticket holder during the new Big Three era. So, we got the tickets right before the Celtics went out and got KG and Ray. And so we, had tickets up in the balcony and for 7 years. So that whole era and then the first year of Brad were the years that we had season tickets. And maybe it's just because I like I don't know, like, don't get me wrong, I'm obsessed with KG and his time here and one of my favorite players ever, period, and changing the culture and everything. But I always got most excited when Eddie House came in. Eddie House was just my dude. Like that dude would come in and just microwave jumpers all over the place, 3-point machine, nothing but energy on the floor, not in the like dive all over the place Marcus Smart sort of way, but just fired up and jumping and screaming, always had the headband, and just I loved watching E House. I spent giving you way too much here, but I looked so long and I'm not a huge jersey guy in that like I don't ever walk around wearing them now. I don't know. I feel like I'm too old for that at this point. But back then, I'd get jerseys, wear them to the game kind of thing. And I wanted so desperately to find an Eddie House jersey. I couldn't find it anywhere, not even in the pro shop. Like NBA.com didn't sell it. Celtics didn't sell it. Pro shop didn't have, like nobody had an Eddie House jersey. And somehow I was able, before this was more mainstream as it is now, I was able to find one that was probably made in, China. That I got I got it out of a dude's trunk. And like, I don't even know why he had an Eddie House swingman jersey, but he did. It still hangs in my closet today. I was a big E House guy.
He was an underrated piece of that 08 championship team and just that era. And I think that's one of the best parts about like being a fan of the Celtics is you can always go with like the guys like a Paul Pierce, a KG, Jaylen Brown, Tatum. But it's those guys on the margins, the guys who become the fan favorites that also have a huge impact. Like personally, I love Walter. Tommy Heinsohn is a big reason as for why, but Walter was one of my favorite Celtics because of that reason.
Yeah.
You can go down the list. It's just
Absolute legends when it comes to the Celtics. Adam, we want to get you out of here on this. Where can the fine listeners of the podcast find you across social media, and where can they follow you, and any upcoming content, things that you want to plug or promote that's coming out over the next couple weeks?
Yeah, Adam M. Kaufman on Twitter, which I'm maybe a little more prevalent, and then Instagram, it's the same handle, even though I almost never use it. And, I guess that would be the best place for social media. I'm not really on like TikTok and that sort of thing. But yeah, in terms of the content, generally, if I'm doing it, you'll see it on my Twitter page. But I'm over at, as you guys said, ESPN Radio and Sports Grid and Fantasy Life and Betting News Network and all CLNS, all sorts of different places. So having fun. This is in real work. We get to, like you guys know, we just get to talk sports and bullshit. It's a good time.
Absolutely. Really appreciate
The words
your
out
time,
of my mouth.
Adam. It's been
happy to do it.
It's been a good time. We're going to do a few things here to wrap up the episode. Episode will be out tomorrow. We'll have some clips out that we'll be sure to tag you in, and we'll be looking forward to next season. We'll get you on at the beginning of the Celtics here, preview the season, and see where things stand after our conversation tonight. We hope you have a great week ahead. No, excellent. We made it happen. We appreciate it immensely. All right, take care.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Adam. All right.
Good stuff. Adam
Kaufman.
Great,
what a guy.
Great conversation. Good guy.
Great guy.
Very much fits here in with the bros. A lot of Celtics and NBA talk, fellas. So let's keep moving and grooving here down the line. Let's go to baseball.
Want to see a roller coaster?
Let's
like the Bruins.
Let's go to the baseball team.
Much fun.
We had a good week. We went 4-2 and one postponement. They won some games, and wildly enough, they're only facts are the facts. Exactly. And wildly enough, they're only 2 games out of a wild card spot, which is, again, just that grinds my gears because it's 3 games at the other team's venue, but it is what it is. But I mean, hey, they're in the running. Just the one thing I do want, this actually 2 things I want to touch on. Obviously, we all saw Jaren Duran and what he did with Michael Holley, and Michael Holley's a great guy. He's gonna have his takes.
Loved in the media.
He's a sports guy, so he's gonna have his takes whether or not. And if you're doing shitty, he's gonna call you out on it, just like anyone else would. I tried to give Jaren Duran the benefit of the doubt. He went through his struggles and stuff like that, but it just really seems like he's an asshole overall. So 2 big things I really want to see from this team, and then I'll kind of let you guys go into it, is getting rid of Duran and then figuring out what to do with Trevor Story. We have an issue with Trevor Story because he's getting paid so much. He's going to be an everyday player, and he's going to be in smack dab in the middle of the lineup, and that's costing us a lot of games.
Trevor Story is exactly what is wrong with the Red Sox. It goes back to Xander Bogaerts. It's like, hey,
and I think I can fix it. I think I can fix it.
Let's hear it.
Okay, let's just fucking dump him for a bag of balls. All right, just eat the money, because they're clearly they're a big market team. We know they don't like to spend, but they've dumped everyone else's salary. So let's just have them dump this salary and let the young guys take over. Let them have some road bumps. Let this be a year that they learn, they figure it out, they get into a groove, and then coming into next season, whether or not they fire Breslow, I think Breslow's gone personally,
100%.
because the Red Sox are gonna end up tanking. They're gonna be a roller coaster all year long. Again, I say just move away from Trevor Story, get that contract off the books, find a team that needs a potential veteran with upside and hitting that's kind of struggling right now. That may be a new change of scenery. It can change everything for him and get him onto a competitive team that'll take the majority of that salary, and just let the young guys run with it at this point, because that's where you're getting your performance, aside from Wilson Contreras. Is you're getting it from Mayer, you're getting it from Wilyer Abreu. He's your best hitter. Cedar Rafaela, who was expecting him to be one of our top hitters? Not me. For me, he was a 9 guy the whole entire time. And then the pitching kind of just speaks for itself. Peyton Toll, Connolly Early, those guys are dogs. They're going to be dogs. We just need to, properly manage their arms throughout the season. I don't see really any issues, but that's really it for me.
Breslow could do the funniest thing in the world too, which I'm not advocating that this happens, but this would be so funny, and I think I would just die of laughter. One Mr. Rafael Devers is not having a great experience out in San Francisco, and
I heard about that
the one
trade
from under the contract how funny would it be if they got him back and they had San Francisco eat half the contract? I mean, I'm not advocating for it because I think like it's just not a good situation, but it would be so unintentionally funny.
There's no way.
So Red Sox.
There's no way that Devers
that would be very Red Sox-esque. Oh, well, we do need a middle of the order lineup bat, and he's familiar with the organization. I'm John Henry, and I suck. Okay, let's do it.
The falling out that they had at the end of last year, there's no chance.
There's no way.
I do have a new nickname here that I'd like to add into the mix where we have, Pluto Casas and some other guys. But I think that Karen Duran should be sticking. Karen Duran. I mean, what a this guy. I got a rant for Karen Duran here for a second, because the thing is that this is a guy who was the All-Star Game MVP. This is a guy who, was, I wouldn't say an MVP candidate, but a bona fide all-star player 2 or 3 seasons ago. He's hitting under 200. He's had his outbursts left and right. You have absolutely no leg to stand on right now when it comes to anything in the talk around this team, Karen Duran. I mean, just shut the fuck up, get yourself into a headspace so that you can go play baseball every day and go fucking make something happen and maybe get your batting average up to 220 and start hitting the ball. The only reason he's playing every day right now is because Roman Anthony is on the bench with an injury. Otherwise, he'd be on the bench full time. Karen Duran, shut the fuck up, go play, go improve, get back to that all-star, and then you can start having your little outbursts and other stuff when having some legs to stand on. But I'm so tired of fucking Jaren Duran and his off-the-field stuff. I'm so happy he deleted his Instagram because maybe you won't fucking see this stuff anymore.
Yeah. You know what makes it even worse, though, is like the Red Sox could have traded Duran like when he actually had value after he had his first incidents, like dropping his like a hard F-bomb MVP. Like into someone is like, it's kind of like not cool. And it's just continued behavior, and it's just so frustrating. Like I can't stand Duran either. Karen Duran is on my shit list, and I just like now, like I don't think he's really like worth what you could have had for him, and
not a fraction.
But I think
Michael Holley, we have your back. Clip that.
But this also goes back to like the front office and the fact that they have to try and win every deal. They could have traded Duran. They probably would have won a deal years ago if they had traded him when his value was high. But they're like, no. This guy, all-star MVP. We can see his trajectory going up and to the right. We're not going to do something now. And look at where they are now. It defies all reason.
But from what Jemai said, it wasn't even like, I don't think they saw him and saw his trajectory going up. I think for that year, and I'm not speaking about this year, I'm speaking about last year, it was more so the camaraderie between Mayer, Anthony, and just getting those guys into the everyday ins and outs of the baseball world. Yes, he's probably the worst person that you want mentoring those guys, but he was someone that they could at least, it seems at least, that the other guys weren't willing to help him out. And I mean,
I thought Bregman was the guy that was mentoring those guys last year, not Duran.
To a certain extent, for sure. Bregman
it was a lot of Duran.
Bregman was Duran when he's going well is fine, but you got to worry about yourself before you start worrying about these other guys and being able to be the mentor. And he's not in a place right now where he's playing well enough to
I don't think he could ever be a mentor
and take that on. He might not.
He can't. He doesn't have the head capacity for it.
Here's the thing: there's obviously been a ton of negativity when it comes to the Red Sox this season, but the fact of the matter is that the American League is fucking terrible across the board, and they're not out of it. And we know what happened last year, and I can't believe I'm saying this right now, but it's May 11th. We're 40 games in. Can this team somehow scratch and claw their way back to almost 500 or be around that at the end of the month here? And as we approach Memorial Day,
17 and 23,
it's not out of the question at all, fellas. I mean, they have to go win a couple of series, but if they can somehow be around 500 and just be floating around here, like I need nothing more given what just happened with the Bruins and the Celtics for the Red Sox to have some sort of summer, because I'll tell you something, and Big E, we'll get to it later, but there's only so much Bravo we can do.
Starting early on fantasy football this year.
You guys gonna get into murder mysteries, man. There's so many.
Jesus. So all right.
Plenty of hobbies out there.
Absolutely. Well,
sports cards, crocheting.
We're talking. We got openings and We got openings and closings going on this week, so there'll be some things to focus on as time continues to tick.
I'll have boots on the ground on Wednesday.
All right.
Uncle Lee is coming up. He's
Uncle
taken
E.
me, my other uncle, and Marty to the ball game, and we're gonna see
Condolences
Philly.
The
to
Chapin boys.
Uncle on the 76ers and the Flyers. Condolences.
Yes. Yeah. I don't think he expected either to make magic happen, but that's all right.
No, well, that's a good segue there. You mentioned the Flyers there, Big E. So let's do NHL, and then we'll wrap up with the Patriots Nugget at the
The
end.
Chapin soiree.
Yeah.
How do you like that?
Gabe,
I like
take it
Sammy.
away. Just Bruins off season, where things stand. We get absolutely porked with that Toronto pick.
Yeah,
It's fixed.
So
Fuck,
no
man.
bueno there, but just break things down with the Bruins in the off season as things march along from that standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, last week we did the funeral. This week, there's maybe some things to look up to and potential offseason moves that the Bruins can make to make this team a bit more of a Stanley Cup contender. As you said, Pilotti, Toronto gets the number 1 pick. I think that was last Tuesday the lottery was held, and Toronto moved up from 5 to 1. The Bruins were hoping they would drop to 6 or 7. It just couldn't happen to a least deserving franchise. They're probably going to draft Gavin McKenna, who's this phenom player who will, I don't know. You never know with Toronto, though. They could ruin the kid and just completely fuck up. So
Austin Matthews might want out too, so you never know. That team could be perennially bad. Who knows?
And I think you're right, Ian. That's a great point. It's so now that the Bruins didn't get this first round pick because it didn't fall outside the top 5, they either have the pick next year or in 2028. So in a couple of years, this Toronto team's going to look a lot different. Even if they draft McKenna, he's going to take some time to find his game in the NHL, and they could potentially be in the pits depending on what they do in the next coming couple of years. So that's something to keep an eye on. Also a great bargaining chip for the Bruins. If they want to improve this offseason, they can kind of dangle a few first round picks out there to see what they could pick up. I kind of have a few names that I would like to see them trade for. Obviously, the pipe dream is Connor McDavid. Things ended quite poorly this year, losing to Anaheim in the first round. There's a lot of question marks in Edmonton, and I just think Connor McDavid's time there is coming to an end. I mean, the haul that you'd have to give is, McAvoy, Higgins, Lorei, first round picks. So that, I don't think that's happening. Does he even want to come here? I don't know. Eric, you mentioned going after Brady Tkachuk. I think, I like Tkachuk. I think he brings an edge. I think he would be a great Bruin in that sense. But what are you giving up for him? And is it going to be worth it in the long run? I think you would also have to give away a McAvoy or someone of that caliber with picks and prospects to make it happen. And then just one more name that I'm looking at here is Jason Robertson. I don't know if you guys know of him too much, but he's a forward out in Dallas. He's a younger guy. He's due for a pretty big contract, but he would be a guy you slot up on the first line and you just leave him there and don't have to worry about him. He's going to score. He's going to do everything you need him to do. So that's a name that I would like to see the Bruins potentially go after. But any thoughts so far as we go through here?
I think some thoughts I would have for you too, and we can dive into this in future weeks too, is what are the thoughts about moving away from certain players like the Lindholms? I think it's clear that those contracts have not worked out. Those players have not been what they were advertised to be. Is there an avenue to, get rid of them and get off of that salary and off of those players?
I mean, they have a lot of years left on their contracts, and they're making pretty significant money in NHL standards. It would be tough. I think, you just have to kind of bite the bullet and say what they are. And Lindholm is probably a second or third line centerman. And then you have Hampus Lindholm, who's probably a top, maybe on the second defensive pairing line. That brings me to another point is McAvoy. I don't know if he's a number 1 defenseman anymore. He's kind of, I know he had a great season, but his numbers in the playoffs are just dog shit. He really falls off when the pressure's on. And I think that the Bruins need to either trade or find someone in free agency that they can pair up next to McAvoy. That gives him some confidence and kind of someone who he can play off of and so that the game isn't all on his stick. He just needs someone to balance him, I think. And
Couldn't agree more.
unfortunately, yeah. What was that?
No, I couldn't agree more with your take there, Gabe. I think the Bruins need a number one guy to come in, and whether it's offensively or defensively, they need somebody that's on the skill level with a Pasternak or a McAvoy to take this team. And I think you heard it in the end of the season press conference that they squeezed as much as they could out of this team in getting to where they did this year. And I mean, look at it. When you look at it from a big picture standpoint, the Bruins certainly made a nice progress from where they were a season before to how they ended this season, undoubtedly. But they need more talent. They need more top end players on this team to be able to go make a deep playoff run. But you have the guys to be able to build around it. But I think a guy like Pasta and a guy like McAvoy, if not that you're going to bump them off the first pairings or the first line, but can they get a guy that's complementary to them where they're not having to do all the heavy lifting? I think that's why you see a guy like McAvoy when it comes to Team USA and why he's so successful with Team USA is because he has a Jacob Slavin and he has all these other guys around him, Quinn Hughes. I mean, he doesn't have to carry the load the same sort of way when he's in that Team USA setting. He obviously will have to do more with the Bruins, but he needs a running mate, undoubtedly. He needs a Dennis Seidenberg to Zdeno Chara, if you will, sort of situation.
And Gabe, I don't mean to jump away from the defensemen, forwards, all that stuff, but what about we're talking about depth and bringing up depth. What about trading a guy like DiPietro bringing up a guy like DiPietro and maybe shipping off Korpisalo? What are your thoughts on that?
Ship him out west.
Yeah, that's a great point, Sammy. Korpisalo's, he's been a solid backup to Swayman, but the contract is a little rich. They're spending a lot of money between the two goalies right now. So I could definitely see Korpisalo on the move this summer. What they get in return, I'm not too sure. I think, do they just cut bait and get the money back, or do they try to get something in return? I think goalies are usually at a premium, so they might potentially be able to get something good back. But just also, talking about cap space, the Bruins have a good amount of money going into free agency this year. It might not sound like a lot compared to other sports, but they enter the year with like $16.5 million to spend, which is a good amount.
It's a chunk of change.
It's a good chunk of change, and it's something the Bruins haven't had in a while. I feel like they're always cap locked, and they can't really make moves for good players because they don't have the money to do it. So I think one thing is you really have to prioritize re-signing Victor Arvidsson. I thought he had a slow start this season, but was spectacular towards the middle and end of the season. He was one of the few people before he got injured in the playoffs that had a B under his butt and was just scoring goals, and he looked great. So I think that he could be a player that he has a future with the team. And then you have an Alex Tuch, who we know from Buffalo. I think Buffalo re-signs him, to be honest. He just seems like a perfect fit for Buffalo and what they're
hometown
doing.
kid there.
Yeah,
I don't see him leaving.
No, me either. But more realistic name is Anthony Manta, who's been in the league forever, but he's a pretty consistent winger and could bring some toughness and scoring to the team. So I was looking over the free agents this morning, and it wasn't anything that was too impressive. I think in order to make this team Stanley Cup contender, they do need to look at making trades. They need to look at using their extra first round picks to potentially bring that talent on board. So, it's looking like between those two options, the Bruins could potentially be pretty damn good next year.
And Gabe, I think one thing that we want to allude here too is when Don Sweeney does make trades with picks, he tends to win most of those deals. I think, when he drafts, it's questionable. But when he deals them, he tends to do pretty well. So I do believe in Don when he's trading more so than drafting. So as much as I want to make sure that we're using some of those picks, if we're going to use some of those picks as collateral to get better players, I'm all for it.
No doubt. Bruins have work to do this offseason to go ahead and make a deep playoff run, but they're on the up and up. we'll continue to break down their offseason. We'll do a quick Patriots minute, just some bullet points here, fellas. Rookie mini camp going on this week. Vrabel down there running around, leading the charge as if nothing is happening, which is honestly good
Nothing's
to see,
gonna happen,
to be quite honest. And I think, yeah, business as usual. I think today might have been the nail in the coffin when it comes to the whole thing, as a photo of Rossini and her husband kissing yesterday on Mother's Day somewhere comes out, and it's like, okay, they're fine. Like, whether it was staged, whether they were told to do that, I don't really give a shit. The fact of the matter is, all these fucking pictures have come out. That picture is now out there. She's clearly okay with her husband and being able to move forward from this situation. Who knows what kind of relationship that they may have had behind closed doors, if it was an open relationship, if he knew about any of this shit going on. At this point, I'm kind of over it, kind of done with it. I'm sick of fucking TMZ and the New York Post.
I think it's just the national media trying to make it.
Oh my God, the fucking tabloids. Give it a rest. Give it a goddamn rest.
Can I add an actual football thought here and not anything to do with Vrabel Rossini? So one thing that was interesting that came on out from rookie minicamp was Caleb Lomu was on the left side of the line in rookie minicamp. I'm not drawing too much from that. He played left tackle in college, and there was no other left tackle there. So, but I think a lot of local media is like, does this mean that Will Campbell's put on notice? And I think that's just reading too much into something that really doesn't need to be read too much into.
Won't know until training camp rolls around and real.
Exactly. And I think just I wanted to add that in there because I think there's a lot of chatter about Will Campbell and Caleb Lomu, and I don't think we need to talk about any position battle until training camp happens. So
they're both going to be pivotal offensive linemen for us wherever
the QB they drafted didn't miss a pass.
Ooh, Morden.
That works for me. Now here's the thing: wouldn't, in all likelihood, Will Campbell kicking into left guard and Lomu being beside him probably be the best solution for the Patriots when it comes to their line?
It might be, and that's
probably
okay,
what's going to happen.
Okay, if it does happen.
Completely agree.
In the same sense, you need to be careful there with Will Campbell, and he's the number 4. What did they draft him at? 3, 4?
Yeah, they drafted him at 4 last year. 4. I mean, I don't think Will Campbell, I don't want to speak for him, but he seems like the kind of guy who's like, just get me onto the fucking field and I'm going to play and do whatever I need to do to be able to help this team win. I don't think
NFL's a different game than college ball.
I do want to also give not Will Campbell a pass, but like, yes, he played poorly in the playoffs. The dude was playing on a torn ligament. So let's see what he looks like when he comes back healthy this year in training camp. He might come in and blow people away. He might come in and he may not look as great.
And playing good pass rushers.
He might be a better left guard than a left tackle. Whatever
he played
happens,
some really good tack.
Whatever happens, he's going to play on the offensive line. He's going to start. So as long as he's out there, I'm sure he'll be fine.
You know who isn't fine, Biggie, is Mr. West. Mr. West. The Bravo boys are here.
Gabe
the Bravo boys are here. We're coming in hot. We just ripped on the tabloids as we're about to go to our tabloid segment here.
The Bravo boys are back.
Big E. Fucking 60-year-olds, huh?
Yeah, Jen Festla, the friend of Real Housewives of New Jersey. And it has been denied by her. But, like, let's be honest, where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah, fire on the mountain, if you know what I mean. Okay.
Hell yeah.
That reminds me of, what's that Adam Sandler movie?
Is that Night?
Just go
Big
with
Daddy?
It?
Big Daddy, where his girlfriend leaves him for, like, the old guy.
Old balls.
Yeah. And he just keeps talking about his old, like...
But I can wipe my own ass. I can wipe my own ass.
His old balls. Yeah,
I know.
A few other Bravo boy notes. The Real Housewives of Rhode Island renewed for season 2. It's been a great show. Summer House coming back for season 11. Confirmed Sierra will be on it. So
hell yeah, let's go. Ride or die.
The drama continues. Wes seems to be. Wes will fuck a fucking pencil. I mean, this guy is just does not.
Hey,
sharpen that pencil.
As Kyle Cook said, because, you know, Wes had some nudes leak. I think I would have gotten a little more blood flow before I took some of those pictures. So have fun over there, Wes.
Yeah, question is if they're going to do it in the laundry room.
And we'll have more from the Bravo boys as the Summer House reunion is going to start kicking off in the next couple weeks. So once there is the reunion starts going on, all that drama is going to drop. The Bravo boys are here for it, and we will be sharing that all with you guys.
Damn, I just went in a time machine right there, Gabe. Holy shit.
Sharpen that pencil.
I went right with you there, buddy.
Yeah. Man, that was unbelievable. Shout out Jeff Kolb. Happy birthday, Jeff Kolb.
Man, well, I think it's a perfect time to
Keep things
segue
relevant.
and talk about the things that are, my favorite segment of the week. The things that, we hate, the things that smell, the things that are gross, yucky, that make us go, yeah, OPU, get out of here. And then there are things that are stupendous, wondrous, that make me want to jump out of my bed in the morning and go, yeah, who's got a yeah-oh or an oh yeah this week?
I don't know. Let's start with one that can go either way here, fellas. Let's put this one out on the table. We can get everyone's takes. March Madness going ahead and expanding the field. Now, to me, it's a yeah-oh. And it's not a yeah-oh that they're expanding the field. It's a yeah-oh in terms of the way that they're doing it. What I do not understand is why are the 13 through 16 seeds not playing in the first round of the tournament and then getting in to the bracket, and then if you're a top 12 seed, you automatically make it in. That makes no sense to me. I don't understand how you can be an 11 seed here and have to play an extra game, but you're an 11 seed over here and you don't. Like, that makes no fucking sense.
I think I have an explanation as to why, and I think it's because a lot of the ones that come in that are 13 and lower tend to be like those conferences that get the automatic bid when someone wins, and I don't think they want to have those teams having a play-in to come in and play in the tournament. So I think that's why they focused in on the 11 and 12 to be more of those like last bubble teams in, which to me is kind of funny because, they always have like the 4 out. And like, I think even when they expanded the field, to have a couple of the playing games, to be the last 4 out now is just like embarrassing because it's like, oh yeah, you sucked. You wouldn't have even been the last 4 if it was the old tournament. So whoever these last 4 teams are going to be after this new format comes in, smell you guys later. You guys suck. So probably would be UMass or something. So who knows?
Ride the over, right? Yeah, ride the money.
I mean, in one hand, it's a testament to like NCAA basketball and how like, I think the leagues are evening out and the competition is getting a lot more, is just a lot better. And then on the other hand, it's like such a money grab, and it's just like, expanding the field just means more TV time and ads, and that's
more gambling.
The ultimate more gambling. The ultimate reason why they're doing this is to make more money, and that's kind of
it's a money grab.
Yeah, that's the yeah-oh of it.
So I have an oh yeah. So
Go
over
ahead,
the weekend, the girlfriend got tickets to Shane Gillis for the birthday.
Happy belated, Sammy.
Yes,
thank you,
belated
boys.
to Sammy.
Thank you, boys. And he actually beat out Matt Rife for, I guess, like selling out the most seats for a comedian at the Garden. He's fucking great. He had a couple of people open for him that were fantastic. And then on top of that, what was really cool, and it's another one of our oh yeahs, is he obviously hosted the Kevin Hart roast, and he like explicitly like 2 or 3 times throughout the show was like, don't record this. And then like before he like started saying the jokes, he was like, all right, please don't record this. Like I'm literally trying these out on Sunday. And literally almost every single joke he told, I heard on the roast, and it was fantastic. And I mean,
That's
that's perfect segue.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you guys get the chance to go see Shane, I don't know how comics do it to be able to come up with new content every single night and just to kind of be able to run with it. But man, he's fucking talented, and that does segue us perfectly into the next one, which would be the roast of Kevin Hart.
Oh my God, that was like so
wasn't
funny.
as good as Brady's, but
I don't know. I don't know, man. I think like I think it was a little bit different because I think of like when people were going after Tom, there was a lot of stuff about Giselle.
It's more personal.
Yeah, and I think the thing about Kevin Hart that was funny was just like, I thought some of the comedians they got were great. Like, they got Kill Tony up there, the Tony Hinchcliffe. They got I thought Cheryl Underwood was hilarious.
Cheryl Underwood is great.
She was awesome.
She was such a great sport about everything too.
Chelsea Handler. I mean, like it was really good. I mean, and obviously like the Roastmaster General and Jeff Ross is just amazing.
Jeff Ross.
And him coming out in the Eddie Murphy Raw costume to me was just so good. My face just hurt.
What did they call him? What did they call? They said he looked like
inside of a clam.
He looked like the inside of a
clam.
Great joke. It was I thought the roast was excellent. It's great that they've brought that brand of comedy back, to be honest. I think the reason I think the Brady one was a little better than this one was just because the Brady one was sort of ripping off the Band-Aid, like we're going back, like we're going all the way in, and this one just reinforced the fact that comedy is where it is. And it has taken off the way that it has. But excellent roast. There's some weird I gotta shout out Regina. that lady Regina Hall, maybe.
Yeah.
She had a great way of going about her set. Tiana Taylor kind of sucked. Pete Davidson absolutely
He was
crushed
good.
as well.
He killed it.
He crushed.
Great.
Yep.
He was
And
good.
he was a good sport with all the jokes that came his way.
No, that's what it was. Pete Davidson said that he said that Jeff Ross looked like his dad after that's what it was. And I was just like, oh my God. So yeah, they're all good sports about it. And that's the biggest thing is that
Tony was taking a lot of hits.
What did they say about Pete Davidson? He only goes after 9s and 11s after his dad, in honor of his dad.
Oh my God.
And Draymond Green got absolutely ripped
Draymond
up there.
Green got it.
Draymond Green had some good jokes. My joke for Draymond Green would have been, Draymond Green is here, and I'm a little bit nervous because you don't know if you're going to get sucker punched in the face or kicked in the balls at any moment here. You don't know what's going to happen with that.
Netflix, hire this man.
Yeah,
put me on.
I was sad that Nikki Glaser wasn't there. She's the queen of the roast after Tom Brady's her performance there.
I think the reason why though was because obviously Chelsea Handler and Kevin Hart have a relationship there because of Chelsea lately, and she gave him a big platform on that show. So I think there was a big reason as to like why they wanted to have her there.
Oh yeah, do Funny AF. I don't know if you've seen that on Netflix, but it's like a contest for comedians that
hosted by Kevin Hart, right?
Yeah, it's really funny actually.
I did see that.
Yeah,
stuff. We'll keep the oh yeahs going. A big oh yeah to all the moms out there. Happy Mother's Day belated to them, especially our moms here on the podcast and all the support
you,
that
moms.
they give to us. We love
Couldn't
you.
do without
love
you.
you, Mom.
Great day yesterday. Yeah, there's a couple of yaos here. We got
I'll go
Garrett
with
Cole. Kraz, what the fuck happened
Garrett
there?
Cole. I don't quote me on this. I think it was a Seattle Mariners minor league player, went completely, it was a pitch that was supposed to be in the dirt, and the guy went down and got it and just fucking took him yardo. And Garrett Cole being the pussy that he is, fucking plunks a AA player. Dude, you did that just to me just solidifies how much of a pussy every single Yankee player is. You're gonna go and hit a AA player because he hit a fucking home run off you, dude. Get a fucking grip, bro. Do your fucking innings. Get the fuck out of there and get up to the major league. You don't need to be dealing with AA players. You're a fucking bum.
Framber Valdez level.
Oh my.
That's the second time Framber Valdez did it. Fucking piece of shit. Another yeah.
Yes. And we'll wrap up here on and what was a hilarious press conference over there. It does not matter what they might be talking about, but the Trumpster is not thrilled with the NFL kickoff, and he is not thrilled that there are too many games on the streaming platforms. And he wouldn't say
I don't like it one bit.
best.
It's not good.
The kickoff to me was just funny. He's like, I hope college doesn't do what the NFL is doing. I hope they don't do it.
The ratings are terrible. No one wants to watch it. Nobody's going to watch it.
People live for Sunday, and they can't watch the
I would
game.
be
I
one
think
of
we
them.
all live for Sunday.
Good oh yeah this week, fellas. Good list of encapsulating the week that was from that standpoint. All right, let's hop on the bike, take this car home, pocket.
Harvard Yard.
We got NBA and NHL. Speaking of Harvard Yard, and oh my God, all the shit that went on over on Memorial Drive today. You did not want to go over there.
I went over. I was over there by the weekend, and it was a
I'm good on
story. Fucking.
Glad everyone seems to be okay with that. NBA and NHL playoffs roll on here. We'll continue to recap that as we head towards the conference finals on both sides. And Red Sox this week, Kraz. Look, we have
they take
on
NL
East action.
Yeah, they take on actually my two favorite NL East teams, Philadelphia and Atlanta. Obviously, growing up as a kid, I was a huge Atlanta fan. Philadelphia just
R.I.P. to Bobby Cox.
Shit. Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Rather actually, and to a long life lived by Bobby Cox and a great manager. But for me, I would say 100% ATL just because they were my team growing up. Chipper Jones and the whole nine.
98 Braves. Morgan Wallen. Good song. All right, boys. Good episode. Big thank you to Adam Kaufman for joining us. Great stuff with him on all things Celtics and NBA. Always a pleasure to have a guest on. It'd been a minute since we had. Gabe's got cat duty there in the background, as you can tell. So near, far, wherever you are, we appreciate you tuning in. We'll see you next week for another episode. Till then, peace.
Later, boys.
Night.